Now, the Israeli military says it's expanding its ground operation into all areas of the Gaza Strip as its forces push further south. Hamas, which is designated a terrorist organisation in the UK, also fired rockets into central and southern Israel. Israel issued a new evacuation order for around 20 zones in southern Gaza, while humanitarian groups warned Gazans were running out of places to flee. There were heavy attacks around the city of Khan Younis overnight. Local media has reported Israeli tanks on the edge of the city. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Sekunda Kami now reports.
Just 2 months old, baby Adnan has known nothing but war. His parents haven't even had time to register his birth. Now he's in hospital, injured by an Israeli strike. He was born the day after the war began, his father says. I wish he could have seen a life other than this one. They told us to flee the north, but this is what we found. Israel's focus is now on the south of Gaza. Ground troops are closing in on the city of Khan Younis as it's pummeled by airstrikes. Israel says Hamas's leadership is here, but so too are hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who've already been forced to leave their homes for what were meant to be safer areas. The Israeli army is now warning them to move again.
I swear I don't know where I'm heading. I just want to be at the Egyptian border so I can get through first when the wall comes down. Or just take us to the grave and be done with it.
This was the scene on the Salahuddin Road today. Journalists and families running for cover, coming, they say, under Israeli fire. The road runs from north to south and had been the main evacuation route for those still around Gaza City. The Israeli army has said it's now a battle zone, telling residents to use other roads instead. Israeli soldiers are advancing across the Gaza Strip, but international anger over civilian deaths is mounting. 1.8 million Palestinians have now been displaced. Where can they go to escape the fighting? In Israel, families of hostages taken by Hamas held a press conference calling on their government to talk to them and tell them what the resumption of fighting means for their loved ones. Last week saw glimmers of hope. 9-year-old Ohad embracing his father. He and his mother amongst more than 100 hostages released by Hamas. His aunt showed him videos recorded for his birthday whilst he was held captive. His grandfather is still in Gaza.
They are not getting enough food. They are not getting appropriate medical treatment. They sleep on floors. They don't have light. They don't go out. They don't walk. They don't move themselves. What else do you need? They have to go. My cousin told me that if she wanted to go to the toilet, she had to knock on the door, and only after 1.5 hours or 2 hours they let her go.
How did you feel when the truce came to an end?
Very disappointed, because we saw that people can be released. And I'm not a politician, and I'm not an army officer. I don't know the details, and I don't know how decisions are made, but I saw that it's possible.
The mother of 23-year-old Romy, abducted from the music festival, had hoped her daughter would be amongst those released last week.
We were so sure she will go out at Friday, and it was devastating. To wake up at 4:30 and follow the news and then see there is no list.
As well as Hamas, are you frustrated with your own government now?
I'm a mom. I don't understand not in military strategy and not in how to manage a country. That's okay, but I'm the country. We are the people of this country, and if something went wrong in the negotiations, something didn't work as you wanted, the first obligation of government is to come back to the citizen, to come back to the people.
Tonight in Gaza, explosions ring out as the Israeli assault continues. This, the view from a major hospital in Khan Younis. The frantic arrival of yet more injured patients, and no end in sight to the suffering. Well, tonight reports of a communication blackout in Gaza, along with further heavy airstrikes, particularly in the south, including around Rafah by the border with Egypt. That's one of the places that the Israeli army had been telling Palestinians to flee to, using a rather complicated online map. There have been ongoing clashes in some pockets of territory in the north of Gaza too, between Israeli soldiers and Hamas fighters. But officials here are making clear that they're going to go into the south of Gaza with full force, despite how densely populated that is. Even some supportive Western governments are raising concerns about that, but there doesn't seem to be enough tangible pressure behind those concerns to make Israel rethink its approach.
Sheikh, thanks very much. Well, earlier I spoke to Mansour Schumann, a Canadian Palestinian who's opted to stay in Gaza to document the war. He's also been volunteering at hospitals there. I asked him if he could explain what's currently going on at the hospital in Khan Younis.
What is happening right now is that the planes are coming down on a very low altitude and firing their missiles from the middle of Khan Younis above us here in Nasser Hospital onto different buildings. So whenever a missile gets struck by through one of these planes, you can hear its echo as if the bomb is bursting beside you here. So it's been a terrifying experience over the last hour for many people here, and it's bringing memories back of my time at the Shifa Hospital.
And can you give us a sense of the number of casualties you're seeing?
Right now, ambulances and civilian cars aren't stopping, coming back and forth from different areas in Khan Younis. This is in addition to the hundreds of patients that are already in the hospital here from Khan Younis, or those that we have received from the north of the Gaza Strip and from Gaza City. Right now, tents are being set up all over the place. I'm in a tent space. I have 4 people here in this tent that are injured severely, also being treated with me right now.
And how can you give us an idea of what kind of injuries people are coming in with?
I mean, this is the biggest number of casualties that I'm seeing. You know, people who have lost their hands, legs, their eyes, people who are now disabled, they need wheelchairs.
Have people around been told to evacuate, and how easy is it to follow those orders without, consistent power to click through to those QR codes on those leaflets?
It's logistically impossible for people to move around. So there's one main highway called Salahuddin Highway, and this is the highway that connects Rafah, Khan Younis, the Middle area, Gaza City, and northern Gaza. This highway has been bombed several times over the last 72 hours. So people are trapped and there's no place for them to go.
Mansour Schumann, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, a short time ago, I spoke to the former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, and I began by asking him how he thinks Benjamin Netanyahu is handling the crisis.
I think that in a normal country, he would resign on the October 8th in the morning. Probably in the UK, if he would refuse to resign, in 2 or 3 days, his cabinet members would invite him to a lunch, and at the end of the lunch, he would announce that he decided to resign. But in this regard, Israel is not exactly a normal country, so there is a need for more kind of public pressure, more political pressure in order to do it. It's not simple. But I think that, or hope that Israeli government will come to terms with these ideas as early as possible, or being replaced in order to enable the crisis to be solved and the next chapter be opened.
So how long do you think Israel has got to carry on with its military campaign the way it is now?
I think, first of all, there is now, we might see certain change in style when now that the fighting was renewed after the truce for the hostage exchange. But basically, it might take a long time, according to our army, probably a month, 2 months, and so on. And it's not easy to fully complete it. In order to make sure that the objectives are achieved, namely destruction of both the military and waning capabilities of the Hamas, I think the time had come to sit down behind closed doors with the Americans as well as with the Egyptians, Jordanians, Emiratis, Saudis, whatever, and to try to shape the morning after, namely who will take it from Israel once it's give and take completed the mission. But unfortunately, that's against the approach of our own prime minister, and it creates a problem.
And can you see this as an opportunity to bring back the possibility of a Palestinian state?
I think that it's in a way it's irrelevant. You know, when we are speaking, probably Israeli soldiers are going through the narrow streets of Khan Younis, and probably Hamas fighters are trying to kill them, and the other way around. We are in a war. We should be focused on achieving, first of all, the destruction of the Hamas military and waning capabilities in the Gaza Strip. But having said that, in the longer term, there should be some kind of, in order to convince the Arab moderate autocrats to participate in such a project, they should be assured by the Americans or indirectly by Israel that a new chapter will be open once this crisis is over. And this new chapter should be based, or could be based, only on the idea of two-state solution.
I mean, as you say, as we speak, Israeli and Hamas forces are fighting each other. And we are seeing very shocking images of people killed by the bombing, children killed by the bombing, small children crying over the bodies of their brothers and sisters in Gaza. I mean, how do you respond to those images and those facts as a former leader, a former general?
I'm not happy of any human being lost his life when he is innocent. And Israel is committed to the international law. And in my judgment, the Hamas directly and indirectly responsible for losses of life on both sides. Israel is doing whatever it takes, whatever it can, but we cannot give the Hamas barbarian terrorist impunity through their capacity to use their own people as human shields. Because if you go the whole way, it means that you are paralyzed from any action, that's not the content of even the international law.
Ehud Barak, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.